So my career as a digestive wellness expert began a long time ago, 1973. I was 18 years old, and I had had some very uncomfortable symptoms myself: gas, bloating, cramping, abdominal pain, waking up in the middle of the night, curling in a fetal position. Some days I'd have loose, urgent, frequent bowel movements. Some days I would feel very constipated. And then one day, things were really bad. One night, things got really bad. And so we went to a gastroenterologist, had a colonoscopy without any sedation back in those days. And within a few hours of that, the doctor sat me down and told me that he thought I had colon cancer. And so that was not very good news. And when I came back about 3 weeks later, they had changed the diagnosis to what they called precancerous ulcerative colitis, and told me that it was medically incurable. There was no known cause, that it had nothing to do with my diet, and I'd probably need to be on medication every day for the rest of my life. So as you can imagine, this was not very good news. Oh, and they also told me that I probably would need surgery to remove my colon before the age of 30. So none of this was very good news. It didn't make any sense at all. I pleaded with the doctor that I thought it had something to do with my diet because I had radically changed my diet about a year prior to this diagnosis. I went on a high-protein diet, which back then was nothing like the high-protein diets of today. There's a lot more education and information about how to do that safely. So I really kind of just winged it on my own and had symptoms pretty quickly after doing that, and just really never put two and two together. So after I was told that there was no link or connection between my condition and my diet, I just went out on my own. In 1973, no internet, and went to the library and found several books that had very clear connections between these type of serious inflammatory bowel disorders and the lack of fiber in the diet, the lack of really healthy whole foods. So even back then, I was able to make some pretty serious changes in my diet. And within a few weeks, I started to feel better. Within a few weeks, I started to see improvements in the toilet bowl, not to be too graphic there. And so that's really what got me started. I was very impressed with how quickly my body responded. And then I went to school. I went back to school to learn how to use diet as therapy. And it took me about 7 years to complete my initial education in that area, in that world. And so since 1980, I've been a practitioner helping people with all kinds of chronic degenerative type conditions and symptoms. But over the years, I did focus more and more on digestive system disorders. So almost since the mid-1990s, I have worked almost exclusively, well, I would say about 75% of my practice is people who have serious digestive system disorders. So what is a digestive wellness expert? So I work in the world of functional medicine, functional nutrition, integrative medicine, integrative nutrition. And in that world, we have identified 7 distinct and interconnected root cause areas. Things like mindfulness, which we look at somebody's habits. So not only what they eat, but how they eat, whether they chew or don't chew, whether they eat late at night, whether they eat too fast, whether they eat when they're upset or worried. This is a huge piece of the puzzle, and a lot of practitioners don't pay attention to it. Proper daily hydration is root cause area number 2. Micronutrient deficiencies, macronutrient imbalances, oxidative stress, something called redox signaling. That's actually root cause area number 7. But root cause area number 5, not only for all digestive system disorders, but many other chronic degenerative type conditions as well, is something called intestinal dysbiosis. Intestinal dysbiosis means that there's an imbalance in the gut bacteria, in the ecosystem of organisms that lives inside the intestines, lives inside the human digestive system. And when this system goes out of balance, it's very difficult to correct it. In fact, people try many different things. They change their diet, they improve their diet, they make sure they're hydrated, they pay attention to their habits, they even take probiotics, but they don't necessarily get better. So over the years, I developed a very simple but effective approach using very specialized herbal products that will go into that person's body, go into their digestive system, and neutralize the toxins being produced by these negative organisms, the dysbiotic organisms, and safely remove them, take them out of the body. And while we're doing this, we make sure that all the other things that we're doing in that person's diet and lifestyle are conducive to the growth and health of the probiotics, of the healthy bacteria. So we recondition what's called the intestinal microbiome. So that's the essence of the work that I do as a digestive wellness expert. But many people try to help people in this area, but without an ability to, without an expertise in being able to safely remove and reduce the population of bad organisms while you build up this new population of healthy probiotic organisms, people just are not very effective. But I've used this same basic approach for close to 25 years using these specialized herbs. So it's a very particular way to address these problems, and it's very effective for overwhelmingly most of the people. Certainly well over 90% of people that I work with will get better. And honestly, the other 10% don't do what I tell them to do. And so that's the reason primarily they don't get better. So the primary symptoms of any digestive system disorder are the following: gas, bloating, cramping, discomfort, pain. And then in terms of actual bowel movements, people fall into one or two camps: loose, urgent, frequent type of bowel movement, or slow, sluggish, dry, hard, constipated type of bowel movement. Okay, so those are the major symptoms. But it's amazing how many people with those symptoms end up having what's called inflammatory bowel. So they have inflammation inside their intestines, and that causes another condition to arise, and that's called leaky gut. A lot of people have heard about this, leaky gut syndrome. It's called intestinal permeability, the technical medical term. And if a person also has leaky gut, and many people do, then they also have aches and pains. They also have headaches. They can have skin disorders. They can have energy problems like chronic fatigue. So there are many, many other symptoms that can arise from having an imbalanced gut bacteria, what we call intestinal dysbiosis. And then again, that often causes the leaky gut, which causes all these other symptoms. So what we say in functional medicine, functional nutrition, is everything is downstream of the microbiome. Everything is downstream of your gut. If your gut is healthy, then chances are you will be healthy. But if your gut is out of balance, then you can often have many other symptoms, not only uncomfortable symptoms in your gut, but uncomfortable symptoms many other places in your body. So it's a great question. Why are so many remedies ineffective? Why are so many approaches to the issue of a digestive system disorder, symptoms, condition, ineffective? And I think the major reason would be this root cause area number 5, intestinal dysbiosis, is never addressed properly, effectively, comprehensively. So for sure, that's what I see in my practice. So in other words, practitioners tend to say, okay, if you'll just eat these foods, that will correct the digestive problem. Now, if the digestive system disorder is very minor and very mild, that could work. Changing the diet, getting on good supplements, taking a probiotic, getting better hydrated, these things, paying attention to oxidative stress, making sure you're not doing things that trigger inflammation in your body and in your gut. All those things can work and should work and will work if the condition is minor, if the symptoms are mild. But if the condition is serious and you've had it for more than, say, 3 or 4 months, then chances are your level of imbalance in that gut bacteria, your level of dysbiosis is such that unless and until you go through a process where that huge population of bad organisms is systematically and comprehensively removed from your body safely, while you build up a new and healthy microbiome, then the chances are it's not going to happen. And this is basically what I see in my practice. People who come to me, I'm usually not the first stop for most people that I end up working with. Most people have tried many other things. They've seen many other approaches. They've seen many other practitioners. They've tried many other approaches, many different diets, so many different supplements, and they're really frustrated. In fact, the most common thing that is said to me during that first conversation I have with people over the phone or via Zoom is, I've tried everything. I'm so frustrated. I'm at the end of my rope. I really don't know what to do. I really don't know where else to turn. And so I specialize in very difficult to solve cases, very difficult to solve situations. And I'm successful because I am looking at all 7 of these root cause areas. I'm paying attention to people's habits. And the most important thing is this whole area of intestinal dysbiosis. Most people have never gone through a process where they've had a complete changeover of their microbiome. Most people have never had that experience where they've been able to completely remove the bad organisms causing all the symptoms, by the way, and have an experience of a healthy population of probiotics. You're supposed to have 80% of the total amount of organisms that live in our digestive system be probiotic. And so if that is the case, then that person is very healthy and they don't have any negative digestive system symptoms. But once it dips below 80%, you can have minor problems. Once it dips below 50%, then you really can have a lot of very serious symptoms and conditions. So this approach has really stood the test of time. I have not changed anything fundamentally in the way I approach all digestive system disorders in the last 25 years. And so people can really depend on me. People can really count on the approach that I use to be effective, whether they have a minor problem or whether they have a very serious, extreme condition and extreme symptoms. Yeah, so that's a great question. Can you test to see what your population of organisms is? Can you find out how many good bacteria you have, probiotics, as opposed to the dysbiotics, which are bacteria and viruses and yeast, mold, fungus, parasites, worms? There's all kinds of crazy pathological organisms that can be included in the mix of dysbiotic material. So testing is, you can do tests. You can do a stool analysis. There are several labs around the country that perform these kind of tests, and they will send you the test results, and you can see how much, out of 100% of the organisms in your system, do you have 80% that is probiotic? Or do you have some other percentage, or do you have an overgrowth of the wrong kind of organisms? And then what kind of organisms are there? And what are the pathogens that they're producing and letting out into your digestive system? So I don't require testing in my practice because I've had enough people over the years who have done testing And then they were put on a protocol, put on a diet, put on supplement protocol, and then they didn't get better. And so the testing isn't necessarily required. So I base everything on somebody's symptoms. And then I walk them through this process that I've described a little bit. And so I haven't had anybody tell me that their bowel movements are normal, they don't have any gas, no bloating, no pain, all their other symptoms have started to improve. And then they go back for testing and told, well, the doctor would say, well, we're delighted that you feel so good, but you still have dysbiosis. You still have, your test is showing that you still have an overgrowth of the wrong kind of organisms. So I've had enough people do kind of before and after tests to show that no one who reports good results, no one reports having normal functioning in their digestive system and with elimination, and then they go and get a test and find out, well, that they still have dysbiosis. So the most important thing is that people feel relief from their symptoms and that they have normal functioning restored. And my experience is nobody lies about that. Nobody tells you that everything is fine when it's not, because these are very debilitating conditions. These are very uncomfortable symptoms. And people, of course, are very eager to have relief from those symptoms, but they don't lie about that. People, when they really have their digestive system restored, when they have these their digestive system functioning restored, they're very happy about that, and they're happy to tell many other people about it as well. So the most important thing in this whole complex of symptoms and conditions is the symptoms that you manifest on a day-to-day basis. And when everything is working properly, you know it and you feel that, and it is a tremendous relief. Yeah, so that's a great question. So usually the first step in the process for someone who ends up working with me and resolving all these issues is what we call a free 30-minute first step conversation. And that's usually over the phone, but it can be through Zoom. And basically somebody has filled out a form, it's available on the website, to tell me briefly what their symptoms are, if they have a diagnosed condition, how long they've had these symptoms, etc. And so then once I've heard all that, I can tell them whether I've had success in helping other people with those same symptoms with that same condition. Now, 99.9% of the time, I can. Any type of digestive system disorder, I have helped somebody resolve it, over the last 40 plus years of my career. So that's the first step in the process. And then I explain briefly the 7 root cause areas. After that conversation, I will send them information to explain a little bit more about me and explain about functional medicine, functional nutrition, my specific approach to digestive wellness. And then once they review that information and find that it makes sense to them, then they go ahead and fill out what we call an initial consultation form. It's a fairly extensive form. It's about 15 pages long. People can then provide me with their medical history and many other details about their specific condition and symptoms. And then we get on the phone or Zoom for about a 90-minute session. I go over that 15-page form with them, clarifying everything, making sure that I completely understand, what their condition is, what their symptoms are, the severity of their symptoms, how long they've had it, all the things they've already tried, all the supplements they've already tried, all the diets they've tried. So pretty much everything. And then I will explain to them, I will make a proposal to them for a program that I'm going to walk them through, if they're agreeable, in order to address and resolve all their symptoms. And we do that by making changes and improvements in the 7 root cause areas. So usually there's 1 or 2 changes. We change insulting habits and behaviors into complementary habits and behaviors in each of these 7 root cause areas. And then the body really does the rest. So at the end of the 90-minute consultation, I always ask people, even if people are feeling like 100% that they want to do it right now, and many people do feel that way, I ask them to sleep on it, because I want them to make sure that they've made a decision knowing, not an impulsive decision, but a decision that they've made after really thinking about it, making sure that all their questions have been answered to their satisfaction. And then once that happens, then they let me know that they're ready to proceed. And then I usually work with people what I call a complete program. It takes about 3 to 4 months to complete, because the first phase of the program is to help them get out of their uncomfortable symptoms, and then to restore normal health and functioning to that intestinal microbiome. That's really the most important part of that process. And then to begin, and during that process, their diet may have some limitations, their diet may have some restrictions, but the whole point is to get to the place where that microbiome is now really healthy, everything is functioning properly, and so we start introducing or reintroducing some of their favorite foods, or some of the foods that they may not have been able to consume for a while, because the only relevant proof of a really healthy digestive system is that you're able to eat a wide variety of foods and enjoy a wide variety of foods and beverages and snacks and desserts without any negative repercussions. So I work with people not just to relieve their symptoms, but to reestablish really healthy functioning, and then to make sure they know what to do on an ongoing basis so that the problem doesn't return. So usually that takes 3 to 4 months. Now, it doesn't take 3 or 4 months for someone to start to feel better. In fact, it takes about, after the initial consultation, it takes about a week to maybe 10 days to get everything that they need to do in place, what I call the pieces of the puzzle. Once all the pieces of the puzzle are in place, then usually it's only 3, 4, 5 days where people start to feel significant improvement in their symptoms, even if they have an extreme or severe case or condition. So again, it doesn't take 3 or 4 months before people are feeling better. It can often take 3 or 4 days, but usually within that first week of implementing all the changes, people are feeling significantly better. Absolutely, way before the 3-month mark, people are feeling 100% better. So I hope that addresses that particular question. So how can you learn more about this? How can you learn more about all the information that I've been sharing and talking about? You can go to our website, www.thecenterforfunctionalnutrition.net, and you can see on that website that you can purchase my book. The book is called Principle Eating, The No Diet Way to Complete Health, 7 Steps to Total Dietary Freedom, Digestive Wellness Edition. So everything that you need to know, everything that you need to do, everything that you would need to purchase is in that book. I describe in great detail the 7 root cause areas for all digestive system disorders. And I wrote the book for people who wanted to do this on their own, and for whatever reason, either didn't have a serious enough problem to work with me directly one-on-one, but wanted to be able to address and resolve kind of their minor digestive system disorders, okay? So that's available. It's also available as an ebook through our website. We also have the audio book, which is now available, narrated by me. And then we've also completed a series of videos, video lessons, to walk people through this entire process step by step by step. And for people who purchase the video series, we also have the added support of a Zoom once a week, sometimes twice a week, so that people can come onto that Zoom and get their questions answered. Now, again, that service is for people who have purchased the video series, which is called the Course in Functional Nutrition Digestive Wellness Edition. So these are all ways that people can access this information and either make progress on their own or work with me directly.